I consulted with Vilma, and here is a concept note for a possible ESD online course for Handprints that could be co-developed and then managed out of the CE website. And what we're looking at is the curriculum activated learning that deepens a love of self, others and surroundings. And if we take it in overview of an online course design, we'd obviously base it on the 4-quadrant model as Kartikaya suggested. So we'd have the story sharing, the finding out, the working out, and the taking action. And we'd structure it around the story activating the questions, then doing some sort of practical work for analysis and modeling so that people can work out, then some sort of implementing work, and some sort of reflection and stabilization. And all of these processes can have different starting points. So if we're looking at an online course structure, we'd start off with Module 1, which would be Startup Overview and Origins. Then we'd have Module 2, covering Quadrant 1 on the startup. Then we'd look at some sort of inquiry-based work, some sort of deliberative work, and then some sort of change project-orientated work. And there'd be 4 tasks, T1 to 4, the co-development of real-world startup stories, the design of an inquiry activity together, the review of the outcome of that design of that inquiry to inform a possible change project, and look at the trial implementation of a change project with reflection. So the exemplar materials are already in the book, and we could use the living waters, plastic or bee, and food, and the participants could choose the one that they wanted to work on, or a combination of these that they would work on. And we'd conclude with all of the assignments, the tasks being reported, and the teachers also developing a whole school policy framework in which they could work. So if we wanted an evaluation of the program, we could use a theory of change approach for the design framework. And we could look at the handbook as the basis for it. So we've got the online course design, where we're looking at course-mediated teacher-student ESD learning interventions. And then we'd have the 5 modules. Module 1 would be the registration, origins, an overview of the 4-quadrant ESD learning progression. And then we'd look at Module 2, or capacity development 1, where we'd look at handprint as an activating role with a startup around stories. The question that could guide this are, what are the practices that raise current concerns? And then we'd look at Module 3 rather, which would be capacity development 2, which would be the story sharing mediation of questions to activate inquiry into a local matter of concern around how are things today. Module 4 would be capacity development 3, the story sharing mediation of questions, activated inquiry around an understanding of the matters of concern. What can we do together? Module 5 would be capacity development 4, small scale change projects, implementation. What have we learned from what we have done together? And then we could expand this obviously into assessment of the result areas. Result area 1 would be quadrant 1, startup narratives, and the task would be activating a story with peer review. That would save on assessment. Quadrant 2 would be task sequences, and task 2 would be a lesson plan, and that would also could be peer reviewed. Quadrant 3, deliberative narrative on concerns, evidence, and solutions. Then quadrant 4 would be assessment record of evaluation of the change project, and a record of the assessment of learning. So when we start taking this into, how we're going to track results, we track results in terms of more efficient teaching across tasks 1 to 4. Then we'd look at the exemplars, the way the exemplars were used. We can take this further in terms of evidence of its contribution to curriculum strengthening and to the SDGs. We'd have a record of the materials in the online framework, and we'd have the change project accounts. So we'd have plenty of materials that we could evaluate in terms of the scaling towards the achievement of SDG 4, which is inclusive and equitable quality education. So the online course, 5 modules, 4 tasks, with the task record being submitted. And the handbook exemplars could be the 4 that are in the handbook, so that we could design the course and evaluate the course using the 4-quadrant framework and the outcomes of 5 one-hour sessions, which could be aligned with 5 one-hour work-away tasks, which are peer-reviewed and build a community of practice for handprint in a productive way. So I hope this provides some starting points for our discussion on Monday.